What's going on, everyone? So the New Orleans Pelicans want to trade Valanciunas. So Jonas Valanciunas is a very solid center in this league, but he is on the final year of his contract, and the New Orleans Pelicans are kind of looking for a more long-term piece, somebody that they can kind of use for now in the future, kind of fit with their core that they have. And Valanciunas very likely could be a solid pickup for several teams. And when it comes to what the Pelicans are looking for, which I think isn't going to happen, well, one, maybe, but they're targeting Cleveland's Jared Allen. Don't really see the Pelicans landing him. And then Detroit's big man, Isaiah Stewart. Now, I do think Isaiah Stewart is possible, although Detroit seems very high on Stewart. He could be a possibility to maybe end up trading, especially because Detroit has like 12 big men. So maybe that's something that they're looking to move on and acquire somebody else. But I don't see them wanting to acquire Valanciunas. And this is where I think the Lakers could come in, right? Valanciunas, I think, would be great as our starting center alongside Anthony Davis. The Lakers really could use a sizable big. You're talking about a guy that's, 6'11", 7 foot. He's like 265 or something like that. So he's got good size. He's a back to the basket, but can also stretch the floor a little bit. He's only 31. So he still has some years left in the tank. He'd be on a $14 million salary. So he's not ridiculously unobtainable. He's not making 20 plus million to where it's like, man, you'd have to give up several pieces. No, like you could work something out to where maybe you could get a Valanciunas in another piece and work out some type of 3-team deal. That could be something great. Problem is, you wouldn't be able to do that anytime soon, right? So I don't see Detroit wanting to take on Valanciunas, but maybe, right? Like, look, if by the grace of whatever, right? If Valanciunas ends up going to Detroit and ends up getting bought out, the Lakers better be the first one knocking on his door immediately. Because, again, talking 7 foot, 265, could play alongside Anthony Davis, a guy you could dump the ball down to and let him go to work. I mean, this would be a great option at the center position. Wouldn't cost a ton, even if the Lakers were to try to re-sign him. He's not going to cost a fortune. He's not going to cost a lot. I love the idea of Valanciunas, personally. Now, are there better options out there? Are there better people? Of course, but that doesn't mean that those guys are available. It doesn't mean that it necessarily fits. It makes sense, right? It's a lot that goes into it. But if the Lakers can work out something to where they can land Valanciunas, that would be great. Again, they probably wouldn't be able to do this for a while. Because most likely my guess is they would be looking at something in the D'Angelo Russell market, right? Trying to flip D'Angelo Russell either to the Pelicans or to a third team or a fourth team. Maybe it's like some big type of trade where the Lakers land Valanciunas and maybe another piece, and then D'Lo goes somewhere because they do want Austin Reeves to get more time at the point guard position. And if Max Christie is kind of your guy of the future, then it would make sense to maybe go and move Austin Reeves to the point now, and then you could bring in, a Taurean Prince at the 2 or something like that if you needed to, right? Like you could have a starting 5 of, say, Austin Reeves, Prince, LeBron, then have Anthony Davis and Valanciunas. Like that's a very good starting 5. You got size, you got length, you got shooting, you got basically everything you need. And Valanciunas himself, I mean, he's a 15-10 guy, and he's also a really good passer. This is a guy that averages 2 assists per game. Has had seasons where he's averaged just under 3 a game. So this is a guy that just in general is a guy that can just go get buckets. He shoots 57.7%, so almost 58% on 2-point attempts. He's also a 35% 3-point shooter. So he's a guy that could actually stretch the floor and knock down the 3 ball. He doesn't shoot a ton. He only shoots about 1.5 attempts per game, but the previous year, not last year, the previous year, 2021, 2022, he shot 2 attempts per game, which, again, not a ton, but he was 36%. So he was actually a whole percentage better on basically a extra 3 per game. But most of his shots come at the rim or, in that mid-range area where he's about 58% shooter. He has had seasons where he shoots 60 plus, but again, just a very versatile type center option. And the Lakers really want to play Anthony Davis at the 4. Valanciunas could be a great solution, right? So let's say best case scenario, let's say the Lakers do land Christian Wood. You basically just have to weather a quarter of the season until you're able to trade for Valanciunas. And then once you're eligible to trade for him, then you can make that move and you're good. And then you'd have a 4-man rotation of Jackson Hayes, Valanciunas, Anthony Davis, and Christian Wood. That would be great. So you just got to go with Christian Wood, Anthony Davis, and Jackson Hayes for the first, 30 games or whatever. And then by that point, you should be able to be in a position where now guys start becoming trade eligible and stuff and can make a move like that. The Pelicans aren't in a rush to trade for him. And I don't know how many teams would actually want to trade for him. One, because he could just leave. And two, how many teams really need a center, right? How many teams actually need a starting caliber center? Not very many. Some of the bad teams maybe, but most of them have young centers that they're really high on, that they're developing and trying to build and grow. All of the contending teams, they all have centers. The only one that I could think of would be Golden State. Golden State could really use Valanciunas because they have nobody bigger than 6'9". So Valanciunas would be the biggest, or the Golden State Warriors would be the biggest threat for Valanciunas. And so if you could get him over Golden State, then you're in a good position. So if he really does become available, then I think it's a good play. I think the Lakers should definitely consider going and trading for Valanciunas. Again, if he ends up getting waived, if whatever happens, some crazy thing happens, let's say Detroit does trade for him, right? Let's say the Pelicans give up a first and Valanciunas to get Isaiah Stewart and something, right? And Detroit's well, we don't really need Valanciunas. Let's buy him out and let him go where he wants to go. The Lakers better, if it's even a rumor that he's going to get bought out, the Lakers need to be jumping on that immediately. The Lakers need to be at his front door. Hey man, we're going to drive you to the physical right now. Because I just think that he would be great. I really do. It gives you everything that Rob Pelinka described from a center position. But he's not, a sort of tweener like Christian Wood is, right? Christian Wood can play center in a pinch, but he's more of a power forward. No, Valanciunas is a legit center. He's not some great elite defensive center, but he's good enough. He's a big body. He's an offensive threat. He's a pretty solid floor running big. He's a guy that could go off. He's had several just ridiculous stat line games. He's a great rebounder. So you'd be very good rebounding the basketball. You'd be very good offensively. You'd have 2 true 7-footers at the basket with Jackson Hayes as the backup. Even if you don't land Christian Wood, right? And let's say you lose out on Christian Wood and you lose out on Bismack Biyombo, right? And you bring in a Myers Leonard. I still think you go and get Valanciunas. Right? Because I still think Anthony Davis, Jackson Hayes, Valanciunas, and Myers Leonard is a great 4-man rotation. Myers Leonard is just going to be happy to be on a team. So you could always have him come back. Or you could even try him out at the 4 spot because he's a 38% 3-point shooter. So you have basically, assuming Anthony Davis can get back to shooting the 3-ball quality, then you would have 3 of your bigs that could shoot the 3-ball very well, and I just think you're in a really good position. I really do. My biggest concern with everything is just Anthony Davis and his shooting. He's still very good, 15 in, but 15 out, he's been awful, right? Terrible. He shot 25, we'll be courteous and round it up. He shot 26% from 3 last year. And the year before that, he shot, well, again, we'll be courteous, 19%. And that was being courteous. And like, it's just, he hasn't been great shooting the three ball. And the problem is, if he's going to play the four heavily, he's going to have to shoot. He's going to have to shoot outside of 15 feet, right? He's going to have to shoot the three ball. We need bubble Anthony Davis back is what we need, because he was like 36%, something like that in the bubble, 37%. So if we could get that, then that would be perfect. And then add in Valanciunas, who can shoot 36% from three. Again, he's not taking 10 attempts per game, but he's good enough for 2 or 3 a game and knock down at least 1 or 2 of those. So that's great. And then he's also a guy you could dump the ball down to. You could run your offense through on sets and occasions, because again, he is a very good passer. You could put him on like the high post, and then Anthony Davis in like the dunker spot area, and just like let Valanciunas kind of just go to work and read the defense and kick it out to a shooter or lob it up to Anthony Davis. Like, I really think that they could play off of each other. And it gives you another just big physical body that you could throw at a Jokic, something like that. Like Valanciunas, there's not very many obtainable options. Let me phrase it like that. There's not very many obtainable options that would be better than Valanciunas, right? Like, could Vucevic become available from Chicago at some point, right? Because they're looking to trade Zach LaVine, and if that happens, and they're probably just going to blow it up, sure, but he's making like $6 million more than Valanciunas is, right? And he's older, so like, don't get me wrong, Valanciunas would be solid. He's again another one of those great options that would be great, but I could you get a Nurkic from Portland, right? But he's a long-term salary guy and making some, he's not making bad money, but he's making long-term money. And I just think Valanciunas, if it works, it's great, right? Like, the potential of him working would be huge for the Lakers. If it doesn't work, then he's a 1-year rental. You let him walk and you don't lose anything. It really is. And I like the idea of the Lakers bringing in Valanciunas. Again, you'd have to wait a little bit, but all you got to do is weather the storm for, quarter of the season or whatever. Maybe at worst, like half the season. And then you could make it work. But what are your thoughts and opinions? I'd love to hear it. Let me know. However you feel, down in the comments below. Yes, wait, go get him. Do you think no? If you can get him later, cool, but go get something now. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.